Coming up, this will be episode 25 of Football Then and Now. We've got Chris returning on this day in football. He will be back to do it. I can't do it justice. It's Chris's segment, but he will be back. We will also have the latest. İlkay Gundogan comes back to Man City. I know me and Chris have a lot to say about that. Also, Kieran Trippier's been in the news for about the last 24 hours or so. Could he be going to Everton? Atalanta. And there's some others. There's some other clubs after. I think it was Galatasaray as well. And we'll also have Premier League Week 2, a preview and predictions as well. And if we've got time, we're going to talk about iconic goalkeepers and modern goalkeepers as well. We'll see how we are for time. All this and more on episode 25 of Football Then and Now. Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us. Well, the Wanderer returns, but he wasn't doing much wandering. He was ill. Chris, great to have you back. Also, a big thank you to John Scott, who's filled in for the previous 2 weeks as well. He was there. I called it last minute and he was there for us. So, yeah, but glad to have you back for episode 25. Quarter century of the show. We're not doing bad now, mate. We're getting the episodes up.
I'm glad to be back. You know what I mean? I've not been able to hear properly for the last, 3 weeks. So it's nice to be able to come back and do this as well. Is hearing everything properly now. So I'm glad to be back, mate.
Striking while the iron's hot. You do justice to this segment. It's your segment. Obviously, on this day in football, take it away.
Well, on this day in football, as we know, it's August the 23rd, but going back to 2008, and this was Stoke City's first season in the Premier League. No one knew what quite sure we were going to get with Stoke City. Obviously, we didn't know that Rory Delap was going to throw arrows of balls straight into the box and cause absolute mayhem all season. But on this day, Stoke got their very first win against Aston Villa. And I would think the standout of the whole thing, Stu, is you've got it right there. Ricardo Fuller scored an absolute belter of a goal in this game. And I think that's really what stands out. And I think you've got to look at, the progress that Stoke made throughout the whole of that season. Yes, the throw-ins from Rory Delap were absolutely, comical defending with them, but obviously they were really effective. But yeah, you had to give props to Stoke City that season. They shocked a lot of people. They caused some mayhem. They stayed around in the Premier League for a fair few seasons, and then obviously, I suppose overspending, and obviously that one trip to Europe they did. I think I was there when they played Valencia and they got knocked out by Valencia. They were a solid team. Tony Pulis had them working, I suppose like a dice roll, didn't he? And they were sort of hard tackling and, they'd nick a goal. But when it came to the Britannia Stadium, that throw-in against you, I have to keep marking that throw-in. That throw from Delap just caused absolute mayhem. And Ricardo Fuller this season was on absolute fire.
They did so well in the Pulis. You know what? Tony Pulis did a fantastic job there, didn't he? And like you say, I remember us going there. We were down at your house in Old Colwyn watching it. I remember Fellaini had just come in. And I remember it being a very, very tight game. And as they say, a rainy night in Stoke was the phrase, because even the top clubs were going there. And it was such a hard place. When you got a point or 3 points from there, it was recognised as a big thing, wasn't it? Because it was such a hard place to go. It was notorious, wasn't it? Especially top side struggle, didn't they, go in there and trying to get something?
Yeah, they did. And I think it was just the nature of what Tony Pulis sort of had Stoke, as a working team. They got behind the ball, didn't they? They were tough tacklers. And they would make it absolute awkward. They'd block everything off. And I think because they were so consistent with it, a lot of teams, and you say even the top four teams, just ran out of ideas. And that's where Stoke pounced. You know what I mean? And they'd nick a goal. Maybe sometimes, you know, they win the odd 2-1. Don't forget, Stuart, they beat Liverpool by a big number. I'm sure you know what the score was. And Steven Gerrard's last game in the Premier League.
I don't know. You're going to have to jog my memory, mate. I'm remiss, I must admit, with that one.
That was 6, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think it was 6, yeah.
Crikey Moses. I'm normally pretty good at remembering things, but yeah,
They should be remembering that. Blimey hell. It's not every day Liverpool get put 6 past.
No, not at all. Not in more recent times. It was that drubbing by Villa, wasn't it? At Villa Park, where they got absolutely annihilated. Which, yeah, like you say, you don't necessarily think of Liverpool for getting hammerings, do you? And you can think of other clubs. But yeah, no, thank you for that, Chris. Great to have it with the man himself doing that segment. Obviously, we open with that every week now. And yeah, moving on, Chris. Transfer news. Again, this was developing over the last couple of days. İlkay Gundogan is back at Manchester City. I don't know why he was allowed to go last year to Barcelona. We've said about it. He was integral. You know, he chipped in with a lot of goals as well in that position. So yeah, he is back. Are you surprised that he's come back?
Well, obviously, I was hearing murmurs at the end of last week about obviously Gundogan coming back. Obviously, Barcelona have got themselves in dire straits again, haven't they? Trying to, the players they've signed to actually get them in the team, you know, to register. And then obviously there was this rumor about Gundogan going back to City. You know, I mean, he's a top class player, Stuart. He proved that time and time again when he was in the Premier League with Man City. I think it makes a lot of sense for them. You know what I mean? He was a captain, don't forget, for Man City. He can, I've lost for words, but he's just the guy that can orchestrate a team, you know, as a captain should do. But he was fantastic in the role he played as well. And don't forget, there was a few times when in his last season for City, he was playing up front. You know, and the times where obviously Haaland wasn't obviously on scoring tons and tons of goals or brought off, Gundogan was pushed forward. I think it's great for City. They brought an old head back who knows the squad, knows the team, knows the league, and you know what I mean. An older head sometimes, you know, can reinvigorate a team that I suppose they don't really need it. But I think there's a lot of pressure going into this season now.
He got a lot of assists for Barca. I was looking through his stats, and he had 5 goals, which all his goals came in La Liga. But obviously, he's had assists in the Super Cup and different things, Copa del Rey and things like that. But yeah, I didn't know why he went in the first place. You know what I mean? But then people are saying, how does he fit in with the signings they've had? But I'd tell you what, it's a good conundrum to have, isn't it?
I wouldn't mind it, to be honest with you.
And for Germany in the summer, he was fantastic. You know, Germany were playing some good stuff, weren't they? I know they were not that by the eventual win of Spain, but I mean, Germany looked pretty decent, didn't they, in the tournament? Got to the quarters, of course, but I just can't believe. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Like you say, Barcelona's predicament. You know, they've got Dani Olmo. They're obviously trying to balance things, wages, things of that nature. There's obviously a lot more to it, isn't there? But like you say, quite the problem to have, isn't it, having him back in the fold?
Most definitely. But you know what I mean? You go to the Barcelona thing, you know, they signed Dani Olmo, they can't even register him. And it's utter madness that, you know, Barcelona find themselves, was it not last season, but the season before, where they were having to shift players out, you know, to register players they've just signed. But Gundogan, I mean, I think Barcelona missed a trick there. I think, you mean, you'd go hell-bent to keep him in, you know, at your club, especially a lot of new players and youth players that Barcelona use. You know what I mean? Like I said, when I say new players, because they're often signing new players, but he's a good figurehead to have. And, you know, a guy you can go to, and if you need a problem, especially if you're a youth player coming up, you know, like you look at like Yamal. Obviously, I know he was terrific in the Euros, but he was brilliant for Barcelona all season. But you know, I mean, but I know that Iker doesn't play the same sort of position as Yamal, but you know, I mean, the older head has all this experience that can help. I know they've got Robert Lewandowski there, and I know he's been there and won it all pretty much himself. But yeah, I think Gundogan's just one of those sort of classy players that, you know what I mean, you don't get often.
You don't think of Barcelona in this manner, do you?
Well, not from when I was. No.
The heavyweights, you know, we just think of them And it has happened to them. So it can happen. You're looking at City, the charges and things like that and things going on. Big clubs will be held to account. They don't think they're going to be, but they're the barometer out of the elite that have been made an example of in a lot of ways. Again, I'm just going to go back to Ilkay Gundogan. He was the perfect foil 2 seasons ago when I was at Goodison. Everyone was worrying about Haaland, and he was playing like number 10 virtually. Him and Rodri, I've said it before, were unbelievable in that game. We just couldn't get a sniff. We could not get a sniff. They ran it in the middle. And they were Haaland, and then he weighed in with 2, but then he can do the defensive side of the role as well, can't
he? Yeah.
It's not just going for complete, isn't he, in that role, would you say?
Most definitely, Stuart. But he, like you say, he can go and play in sit in midfield role with Rodri. But also he can go in that advanced role. And he does chip in, as you say, with assists and goals. I think it's through sheer experience what Gundogan's had. He was phenomenal for Dortmund when he was there before he obviously came to City. And I think Pep's just elevated him in, even higher. But it's nice to see him back. I think it was a shame to see. It's always a shame to see really talented elite players leave the Premier League. So it's nice to have them back. Yeah, okay, I don't want them playing against my team, but it's, in hindsight, it's nice to see him back. And as you say, I don't know where he'll fit. I'd also got a question: where does this go for Calvin Phillips now? If he doesn't sign for Ipswich, say at the end of next season, if Ipswich don't stay up. There's a lot of tangibles going to be, going on, I suppose, at City.
The big problem with Calvin Phillips is obviously injuries first and foremost, but it's also the wages that the loan club have got to pay.
Yeah.
He's on ridiculous money and they want the whole lot from what I can ascertain from what I've read online and stuff like that, but we take that with a pinch of salt. It's a big outlay for clubs, especially Ipswich, taking that on. That's going to be the big problem there. I tell you what, Chris, Gundogan in 2020-2021 season played 28 league games and scored 14 goals in the league. So he was getting 1 in 2. What a return! What a return for that! For that position, number 1. Again, teams are going to think, "Oh, we'll mark him out the game," but he finds pockets of space, doesn't he? And he's quick. He's quick-footed as well.
I think you've also got to think. You made obviously the example before Goodison with Haaland, and Gundogan obviously was the ghost behind him. Would you say? And now you're saying about the marking Gundogan out. You got to think of the amount of players that if you mark one out, there's another. It's a bigger quality or similar quality just standing beside him or on a different side of the flank. It's hard to mark players. Teams that have an abundance of elite players, on the pitch, isn't it really? But like I say, it's a fascinating situation.
Absolutely.
City haven't spent much. I know they built Salvio, however you want to pronounce it. Spelled, he had it said differently last couple of years, hasn't he? He was a top talent anyway. But they haven't spent bucket loads of money. There hasn't been a load of players in. And there really hasn't been that many going out. I know Julian Alvarez has went to Madrid, but I think you can't turn down the money that they were offered for him. And yet he's won everything now. So it makes sense for him to move on to be the main guy for Atletico Madrid. But yeah, it's not a signing I going into the summer that we were going to see. But it makes sense, I suppose, that it's not much money involved. Obviously, to be signing on fee wouldn't there because he's come as a free transfer. But that's short change for Man City.
They'll pay the wages.
Yeah, definitely.
If he wanted 300,000, say, as a rule of thumb there, I'm just throwing them right. They'll pay it, like you say, because he's not cost anything. So it's what he brings, and I think it further cements that they are favourites now. Adding him in, they were favourites anyway. But I mean, it just. I think saying that from what I'd seen from Liverpool in the second half against Ipswich, they looked very good last week.
Yeah, they did. I watched the game. I was obviously intrigued to see how Ipswich would get on. Obviously, we haven't seen them for a very long time in the Premier League. And I was intrigued to see. And, I couldn't follow Ipswich in the first half. They gave it a go. But obviously really didn't get, anywhere really, obviously putting the ball back in there. I think they had like 1 or 2 chances, wasn't there? Groves with a header and a few snapshots here. Obviously, whatever Slot said in the second half was a massive boot up the arse because they come out a completely different team. But again, it's like Liverpool will always be there because it's the nature of their team. I think Arsenal could be, they've made some, not many signings this summer, but they made really good ones.
Calafiore, the next Paolo Maldini. That was a bit
I
like, come on, he could be very good, but
that's a one of a kind.
I mean, I'm not knocking him, but when you put you're trying to compare him with the great Paolo Maldini, I was scratching my head a little bit, mate, when I read that. But again, it's more power to the lad if he can get to that level. And
of course.
Italy got knocked out early, but he did look good.
And Moreno, who they've obviously agreed in principle now with Sociedad, who's a fantastic midfielder as well, who I think will complement Odegaard. I think they've played together before as well. So, Arteta's, slowly but surely getting to TP1. Obviously, we're still waiting for Arsenal to go and get a 20-goal season striker, because obviously Eddie Nketiah could be going to Forest. And Julian Alvarez, as much of the work he puts in, he's not a prolific goal scorer.
Havertz got in the goals again, though, didn't he? Last week?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If anyone's not a number 9, but they're playing the number 9, it's him.
He played for Germany number 9, didn't he? In the Euros as well.
He can do it. He can do it, and he got a goal again. I was like, bloody hell, should have put him in my fantasy team, but coulda, woulda, shoulda, after the event, of course. But just very, very interesting. Do you think Chelsea can get top 4? They were bookies odds. They were 4th before the ball got kicked a couple of weeks ago. I don't see Chelsea anywhere near 4th, in all honesty. I don't think he knows what team he's going to be putting out. I think he's going to need a bit of time. Don't you?
Listen, Chelsea is a whole different scenario. I like a lot of the players they've signed, because obviously we all know that I play a lot of Football Manager, and I do spend a lot of time finding, the youth wonder kids, as they would say, for the game. And there's a lot of players they've signed that I obviously used to always scout. And that's all well and good. But the sheer amount of signings and plays that you've brought in, it's too much, isn't it? Surely, was it, 119 years of all contracts at Chelsea? That's how long, in fact, the whole squad. There, you look at the amount of money spent. Chelsea's number 1, and their youth spent, obviously selling their youth. Sorry, is I think just over Arsenal's. They're just selling a normal, their normal sort of players in the first team. I think it's crazy that a team like this has been allowed to spend so much money, summer or January, but it's year in, year out. And I also feel sorry for certain players that go to Chelsea, because, you look at Chalobah, you look at Conor Gallagher, now Raheem Sterling, have all been obviously pretty much shown the door, with only, Conor Gallagher at the moment, the only one that's gone. That's like, you as a youth player looking at that, you think, is there any point, sticking around? Do I go elsewhere? And surely players coming in that they sign now must also be thinking the same. I've got about 5 players in front of me to, for my position. And, game for the goalkeepers, Stuart, how many goalkeepers do they need?
7. And I think they signed another one, so it took it to 8.
I know.
And obviously you're hearing Lukaku going to Napoli.
Yeah, if it's 20 million, wasn't it?
It's obviously to get Osimhen in. They're trying to wangle it. João Felix leaving, and then it was Gallagher going to Atletico in it. They're trying to engineer it whereby they're exchanging almost. But I don't know about João Felix, mate. I've got to be honest with you.
I wasn't wooed by him.
I've seen bits, but I've not seen the full potential of him. And Atletico took quite a hit on him, haven't they? What they spent on him?
I think was it 60? Is it 61 million or 60 million? That it will rise to from Chelsea. I know it was about 40 million, before everything else comes in add-ons wise. But I looking back and I look through his stats, and it's only Benfica where he's hit double figures. Anyone else, obviously from Atletico to Chelsea to Barca, he's not hit double figures. And I think was he 120 million that Madrid forked out for him. It's a hard one. Like I said, when he was in the Premier League, if it's 2 seasons ago, when he came in on loan in January, I wasn't wooed by him. Obviously, I watched him a few times. I watched when we played him. I know he scored past us, but I don't think he put the fear of God into many defenders. He's quite small, isn't he? Lightweight. So those sort of players in the Premier League don't really fly, do they? If I'm honest, because I mean, a lot of players and especially defenders in this league are built, are built massively, and they are the speed, athletic. I don't know. I just don't know if João Felix, if he's going to be the number 9. I don't know necessarily think that's his position. I don't generally know what João Felix's position is. I don't know if he knows what his position is. But if you're Chelsea, Osimhen obviously is going to cost a lot of money, wages as well. But he's a natural goal scorer. I don't know, obviously, if he could do it in the Premier League, that's a different story. But I would have put my eggs in that basket instead of, João Felix. I know they obviously wanted to do the thing with Conor Gallagher, not Conor McGregor, for goodness sake. And I think that's a shame because I think he was fantastic for Chelsea last season. But, I think Simeone's going to probably mould him into a better player because he did for Trippier, didn't he? I know we're going to speak about Trippier in a bit, but
we are.
When Trippier went to Madrid, he was fantastic for Simeone, wasn't he?
I can't believe Conor Gallagher's gone, but then they're obviously trying to wangle something, aren't they? But yeah, it did not make any sense to me. What a season he had!
Yeah,
probably only bettered by Cole Palmer across that squad over the season.
Yeah.
He was fantastic, but like you say, going to Spain, Simeone played in that position as well.
Yes, he did.
So if there's anyone who can make him even better, absolutely it will be. But yeah, a bit of a shame I felt because he's been very good. He was good on loan at Palace as well.
Yeah. I remember that bullet he put past us.
He's a good player. He's a very good player, but he could be, even better. Chris, partly to do with Everton, this.
Oh, God.
Dyche remained tight-lipped when he was asked. And it's Eddie Howe cannot guarantee Kieran Trippier will stay at Newcastle. But Atalanta and Galatasaray have been sniffing around him as well. Dyche and Trippier have obviously got the Burnley link.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Obviously, Eddie Howe, he's got Lewis Hall, he's got Tino Livramento, hasn't he? But Trippier's got 2 years left to run on that contract. So, do they need to sell or loan him? That's my question. And he'll be 34 next month. But dead balls, free kicks, Chris. Southgate was playing him on the left, wasn't he? In the tournament as well. What do you think about it?
He's on a big contract as well, don't forget. He's not on buttons, is he? Listen, what Kieran Trippier did for Newcastle when they brought him in, and he was their first big signing, wasn't he, after they were brought out? He galvanised that team. He's one of the players that really helped, Eddie Howe integrate what he wanted for Newcastle, and he really, really galvanised the team. Listen, as you say, set pieces, his overlapping runs. Kieran Trippier is a fantastic right back. As we saw in the Euros, he's not a dependable left back, but he's right-footed, and he sort of ushered into that role for England in the Euros, and it is quite difficult. If you don't play in that position. For regards to us, I don't know. I think you got to look at Trippier last season wasn't very good. When he did play, you could see that, I wouldn't say he's declining because I think, that's harsh to say, but you could see that the mistakes he was making in games, and especially against us, you can start seeing where it's starting to come down a bit for him now. It's hard because I think we do need a right back. I don't necessarily think looking at someone older should be a thing for us. We've got 2 oldest men in the team, and one's been sent off who's almost 40 years old. The club captain is injured quite a fair bit now. It's fair to say, isn't it? Considering his age, I think we need to look at someone that's is young enough but experienced enough where you can push on with him. And, if it's a loan to a buy, then I'm happy with that. But with regards to Trippier come to Everton, I don't know if this is a person who's motivated enough to come to Everton. I think, that this sort of player, Bayern Munich, when they came in from January, would have been absolutely perfect for him. Italy, you say Atalanta after him. I think Italy, for their pace of their football, would probably suit him better than the Premier League. I don't really know much follow-wise with the Turkish league. I doubt he would go to Turkey, but I just don't think he's the right fit for us personally. But he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but I just think it's not for us.
He's just better. He's better than what we've got. And Patterson's just out. He's just always out. It's just not got going for him. Everton, no. It just has not happened. But it'll be Mason Holgate tomorrow, but right back by the looks of it.
No, don't.
So, and he's probably going to go to a back five in that game as well. I can see it a mile off. Like where he's going to go with that. Absolutely shambolic after the first 20 minutes last week. And you kind of knew where it was going when we missed them chances. And as I said to John, Ashley Young's going to have to mark Matoma. And lo and behold, first real chance, they bury it, don't they? And it was just terrible, very bad. Not too dissimilar to Fulham, although we only lost 1-0, didn't we?
Yeah, I think with, you look at Minter, and who was the other really pacey player they brought on after Minter went off, and Minatoma's very trickery and obviously got pace as well. Mikalenko doesn't really do well with pacey wingers, and Ashley Young's 140, so he's never going to catch someone who obviously is going to outrun him. I do think he was stupid enough for that sending off, and he let the ball bounce through his chest. He should have just headed it out. With all of his experience, I would have thought Ashley Young would have made the right decision there. But this is our problem when you're playing a 39-year-old. Why haven't we really got a backup? Why haven't we gone out this season and had a look? Yes, I know we need to replace Onana, and Ugo Buurman was fantastic for us in that game. I think the only player that stood out for me.
Putting his foot in, energy, getting forward, he's strong.
Yeah,
the Corey and Idrissa didn't do much, did they? It was all It was all Sorry, I jumped in then.
No, it's fine. But Idrissa made his normal cock up where he dilly-dallies on the ball, doesn't he, when he gets it from the centre-back and he loses it. I think Decore, I just don't think it. Now we've got two number 10s in Lindstrom and Ndai. Why they weren't playing? I know he likes to integrate them slowly, but when we're 2-0 down, why aren't we just chucking them on? I think McNeil was a ghost all game. I just think he didn't get going whatsoever.
And he's never had pace. He's never had pace in that role anyway. He's not pacey for that position.
Better.
Don't get me wrong. A couple of seasons ago, he was burying goals, wasn't he? Decore was getting goals, but it's where now it's a fact where Dyche now needs to be bold and actually make the changes. When's O'Brien going to be ready, Chris? If he's not ready now,
I imagine he's my head in.
I don't get on Dyche's case. But I'm starting to think like you and several other fans with decision making and sticking to the same plan, sticking with the same players. You needed to throw all three of them in. If not, start them. Just start them. It's and Dye's got pace, trickery. He'll have a shot. Lindstrom on the dead balls as well. He's got to be bold, doesn't he? But then we're going to sit back tomorrow. It's so obvious what's going to happen. But Tottenham in the second half against Leicester didn't look that great, but you never know with Tottenham. They can be very good, but on other days not great. But what do you think in terms of predictions? Because I'm going to go into predictions anyway for the other games.
God, you say obviously Tottenham second half against Leicester, and I agree. They put the foot off the gas, but don't forget this is Tottenham's first game of the season at home, so. Enough of their fans will absolutely galvanise them. I can't see nothing less than probably a 3-0 victory to Tottenham. I know we were much better than them in the second half last season, and we were unlucky with Calvert-Lewin's goal being offside. Oh no, so wasn't he on offside? Sorry, apparently he fouled a player, but he didn't. VAR, fantastic as it was at Goodison last week. I think, I can't see us getting anything out of the game. There's nothing going forward. And you know what? I actually do feel sorry for Calvert-Lewin, and I can probably understand why you'd want to go if he doesn't, if he's not willing to sign his contract, because he's getting nothing. The ball was coming in from Harrison and McNeil. If McNeil ever puts a ball in, if he isn't trying to, get inside, the horrible balls. They're going right over his head. And what is he, expecting to do? He's got a massive head and prowess, but he's not getting a decent enough ball crossed in for him to header it. I can't see us laying a glove on Tottenham on the week or tomorrow, should I say. I think it's going to be all Tottenham, and we're just going to obviously wait for a counter-attack, and it probably will huff and puff. And I think you're looking at Tottenham will break through, I think, probably midway through the first half, and then I think we'll just go to pieces.
I mean,
I don't want to be like that, but
if they could even get if they could even get a point, but I mean, that's going to be asking a lot, isn't it? A draw. Again, it's going to put pressure on Dyche, because then the Bournemouth game the following week, he's going to have to win the game. If we're sitting on nothing after 2, the heat's on. I think the heat's on for him. I think he's really going to have to pull his finger out. I didn't agree with people saying sack him now. I think that's a bit unjust, and everyone's going, "Oh, Moyes is free." People are going to say that, aren't they? That's obvious,
right? And are we going to be here in 12 months' time with David Moyes? Because obviously the game's moved on from their styles of play. I've obviously said to you many a times over WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger that I don't think Sean Dyche's style is modern enough for the game anymore. This is why these sort of managers you really don't see in the Premier League or in top flight football anymore. This style it's too outdated. You need pace, and we haven't got any pace in that squad whatsoever. And you saw against Brighton, pace kills. It really does.
We've got Ndiaye there. That's like a guy who can go at teams and have a go. Why didn't he just do it? It's like you're resting on your laurels, and it did not happen, did it? I think it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad the opening 20 minutes, but
no, I agree.
It's that age-old thing. We don't take the chances, do we? So I'm with you. I think I can't see anything other than a Tottenham victory tomorrow. Chris, Brighton and Man United.
So that's a tasty game. Brighton, like I say, did it do too much to you wowed you? But what they did was effective. And obviously, again, like I say, I'm assuming Minter will be fit enough to play United. And then you got Minter, and you've got Mintona, you've got João Pedro. I think, isn't it Jorginho from Leeds?
Jorginho, Ruth,
yeah. So they could have him or Welbeck.
Yeah,
I think I think it'll be a tough game for United because I thought against Fulham on Friday, I thought Fulham got in quite a lot. They were just very unlucky that they obviously didn't have their finishing boots on either. But Xerxes found the spot, but that's what he does, and he's always done that. Is his early career, should I say? I think that'll probably be like a 1-1. That
I've got a 2-2. I was thinking a 2-2, so we're along the same lines of the draw there. Before, I don't want to make it all about Everton because we want to give the whole scope. Everyone knows for Everton fans. They allowed the Dingra loads. He just went into space because they were sitting back. It's like Michael Keane doesn't know positions or anything, does he?
No,
I don't want to make it about that, but just saying that Sami Adingra, he's a problem. He had good performances last season. So
he did.
They really have got good. They've got a good team still, haven't they, even though they've sold people. But Chris is going 1-1. Brighton United. I'm going 2-2. I'm going for the Desmond 2-2. The Desmond for me on that one. Palace West Ham. Chris. London derby.
You see, obviously West Ham were bought really well, and I thought that Villa, obviously who they played on the weekend, and a good old friend of ours, Unana, scored and gets man of the match. Just figures, doesn't it, with us? I think it's a tough one because I think West Ham were weren't blown away by Villa, but Villa, they're just Emre's got them ticking, hasn't he? And Palace, I just don't know with the amount of players they're selling at the moment. I mean, you're seeing Anderson could be going to Fulham. Gaethje, obviously, we don't know if Newcastle are going to come for a bid, but if they do, how are they going to replace either of those defenders? Because both of them, are a rock for Palace, and it's just I just find it where they're going to find someone or two players that play the same role, or well, they can, but you know what I mean. The style that they play, Gaethje and Anderson, are very hard players for Palace to sort of find something else for. West Ham had a brilliant summer. I thought they bought really well. It's a difficult one, but I think this is another one where I think Palace do play really well at Selhurst Park. And I'd probably go 2-1 West Ham, though.
They need it because obviously they've lost the first game. I think it's going to be very, very tight. I'm going to go 2-1 Palace, but I know West Ham have bought very, very well. Lopetegui win. I like Glasner. I really like Glasner, and I just feel Palace will win that one. Fulham, Leicester, Chris. So Fulham obviously lost on the opening night last Friday, as you said, but good performance in part. They did have their moments, didn't they? Leicester with a great draw. Jamie Vardy, Steve Cooper is like, I'm putting you out there, you're playing. And not got the pace as such these days, but knows where the goal is, eye for goal.
You say he hasn't got the pace as much now, Stuart, but he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. This is a weird one with me because I thought Leicester played really well against Tottenham, but then I think a lot of teams do raise their level against the top six, the Sky top six. I think Fulham were unlucky against United. Obviously, it was just one of them where moments of lapse, wasn't it? And Xerxes just tickles it into the far corner, doesn't he? Other than that, I think there was a really good draw for them before that went in. Leicester, I think I'm still not sure with Leicester. Obviously, they've still got their points deduction to come at some point, whenever that may be. I think Fulham will win this, Stuart. I think they'll be a bit more convincing, and I think they'll be probably. I'm going 2-0 Fulham. I think they're going to bounce a bit more because I don't think they will have lost too much confidence after the United game. It's a bit of a blow losing in the last sort of minutes, but I think they look good enough that this game they'll show everybody else.
I've got a Fulham win as well. I'm going to go 1-0. I'm going to go 1-0 Fulham at Craven Cottage. Moving on, Man City versus Ipswich. Ipswich's stats, especially in that first half, the intensity, they were high. Their PL rank for the weekend was very, very high, but obviously came a cropper in the second half, I think, because they put so much into it.
Yeah, you could tell.
Not too dissimilar to how we are with Dyche in some games for the intensity. And the stats reflected it. I mean, Jacob Greaves had a good header that I saw in that one. I've got to say, I'm going 3-0 City, Chris. I think Ipswich are going to struggle for goals, and I think City are going to swarm them. And I've got to say, it's a City 3-0 for me.
I think I totally agree with you, and I thought Ipswich were really good in the first half against Liverpool. But you're playing at home there. Go into the Etihad, is a completely different ball game, and I agree that like Ipswich only have to make one mistake against Man City, and they're a goal down, and it can be a very quickly process where they'll get 1, get 2, get 3, get 4. I'm going for a 5-0 there.
You're going higher than me. I thought I'll go 3-0.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of pressure on Man City this season.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are talking at Arsenal and Arteta. How close he's been in the last couple of seasons. And he, has he got the beating of Pep this season? And I think the pressure's there. But obviously, I don't know if Arsenal can do it. I'd rather make a statement on that after the summer window's closed, and then we've got the full squads, and then we can make an opinion who we think could win the league then. But yeah, I just think City are going to obviously make a big statement in this game. I just think it's just to put the fear of God into everybody else.
City early on as well. They do tend to slip up early on and then just kick on, don't they? As the season goes on, they are susceptible early on to losing a couple. So as you say, just reiterating what you're saying there, they want to hit it consistently, don't they? They want to not slip up early and make a statement. And goal difference, Chris, we've seen how tight it's been minute. I think goal difference, you've got to look at your goal difference, I think, and get as much as they can. Southampton versus Forest. Southampton had a man advantage for well over an hour and still lost to Newcastle, Chris, which I thought Southampton will make this one man advantage, pay, and they'll get back into it. But Newcastle defended like hell. Fabian Schär was sent off early. I got a -2 in the fantasy football because of him. I thought, he'd be good for a goal. He'd be good for a goal. That was my thinking. But no, that wasn't the way it went down. Forest drew, didn't they, against Bournemouth? So I think Southampton are going to struggle. And I'm going to go with Forest on this one. I think, I've got Forest. I like Hudson-Odoi. I like Gibbs-White. I think they really played well towards the end of the season. They look really good. Chris Wood with a goal last week. I can't see past. I'm going to go 2-0 Forest at St. Mary's, unfortunately. Sorry, Russell Martin.
I just it's a hard one because, we all remember the Southampton from, a few seasons ago, and they were a right pain in the arse of a team to play, especially when you went down to the St. Mary's. Having to deal with Wood-Prowse's set pieces were insane. But obviously he's moved on. A lot of players have moved on. They've changed a lot of the way they play as much now. So we haven't got Che Adams. They haven't got that sort of style now. It's a bit more youthful, isn't it? They picked up an attacking midfielder from Chelsea. I can't pronounce his second name, but he's French and he's quite well renowned. In the youth setup in France. One for the future, but unfortunately, I can't pronounce his name. Begins with UG, though. So if any of you people out there can figure what I'm saying, who I'm talking about, then there you go. But he's a really talented player, and they've got him in on loan. Besides that, there isn't many players that stand out for me this so far in the window that Southampton have brought, to stay in the Premier League. And I think they're one of the favourites to go straight back down. But Stu, Nottingham Forest may have all these players that you just talked about, but they were very up and down last season, and they were very up and down throughout the seasons. I say, they had some good wins, and yet they kicked on towards the end. But they also losing games they should have won, even with the players they had. And I think Southampton could pinch this, mate. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 Southampton.
Two different scorelines there from us, which is good. Yeah. So we look forward to that as well. We've obviously spoken about Tottenham Everton. I'll just ask you for a score for this one because we've given it a bit of a preview.
3-0.
Sorry?
3-0 to Tottenham.
Oh no. I think we'll lose. I hope we don't. I hope we don't get hammered like that. But
and Michael Keane in the team, Stuart.
I think if they sit back, which is coming here, it'll be hell on earth sitting back. Then on the flip side of that, if they do attack, we're going to be open at the back.
Holgate worries me, Stuart. His tackling is it's frightening because when he goes in for those slide tackles, he's always making mistakes and he always goes too late. And we could either give a penalty up quite early on if he gets beaten on the right hand side. If he does play right back,
is Tarky going to be all right for tomorrow?
No, I don't think so.
So it's going to be O'Brien's going to have to start. Whatever happens here, it's going to be O'Brien and King. He's going to struggle to have a back five here. Holgate's going to play full back.
Yeah, we have Keane, O'Brien, and Mikalenko.
What about giving one of the young lads a go at right back? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I know I like Roman Dixon. I thought he looked really,
Reece Welsh.
But it's a hard one, isn't it? Do you really want to necessarily throw a youth player in that's never played in the Premier League?
You've got to look at it from both sides of the coin with Dyche. But
of course, I want to see our youth players come through. Don't get me wrong.
Other clubs will do it. Sometimes this lad might not necessarily be ready, but it's the experience of it. So you got to look at it from both sides. I do take Dyche's stance on it in some respects, but we're so threadbare. We're so threadbare in that position.
But we've known this for ages, Stuart. The thing is, left and right back.
Yeah,
we've known for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my heart is saying a 1-1. My head's saying I've got 2-0 Tottenham. Arguably the game of the weekend, Chris. Aston Villa host Arsenal. What a game this is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to this one. I'm sure you'll be looking forward to this one at 5:30 tomorrow night. Again, just Villa looked very good last week. Got through 2-1 against West Ham. Arsenal victorious as well. I'm going to go 2-2. I've got a 2-2 draw for this. I think Villa will give them a game.
I think you say Villa have been Arsenal's Achilles heels. The last couple of seasons, they struggle with Ollie Watkins. They really do. Not many players Gabriel and Saliba have problems with, but it's Ollie Watkins. It seems to give everybody's defenders just like nightmares. He always seems to find a goal against Arsenal. So obviously that will be, that'll be a main focus. But then Arsenal again, they look tidy opening weekend. I don't think they were putting under that much pressure. This obviously was it 2-1 or was it 3-2 last season, wasn't it? And then Arsenal come back in the last 10 minutes, didn't they? Was it last 5 minutes against Villa? I don't know. I'm probably thinking that Arsenal pinch this. I think Arsenal. I think they obviously, if they want to challenge City, they've got to win these games
as early as 2 games in. It just goes to show the importance of everything, now and how close they've been the last 2 years. It's just little. It's so marginal how tight it is getting that title. Yeah. And prior to that, it was Liverpool, wasn't it? Winning it and then obviously being very close, various times. So, yeah, you're talking small margins, aren't you, to becoming the title? Yeah. It's 2 games in.
I know, but
it's so important. It sets the tone, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It's so deep. The league is so deep. It's incredible.
I just think Villa. You see, if they were playing Villa Stew now, when Villa are now in, say, the Champions League has started, I think this would be. You wouldn't necessarily. I think Villa is just where you're going to see. Are they going to struggle with balancing Champions League, Premier League? But I think at the moment they've got a good spot where they haven't started that, and they've started off really well. And the main focus at the moment is just the Premier League. The Champions League, it's about 3 weeks away from starting, isn't it?
Their performances, the performances in the Conference League, that there was a little dip there, but Spurs couldn't capitalise and get fourth, could they? Villa managed to hold on. I mean, they struggled with the Conference League latterly, and they ended up getting knocked out. But he has strengthened. Moussa Diaby going was a weird one to me. But
FFP, I reckon FFP Reece and Stewart, I do think, and then looking towards next summer.
Douglas Luiz, was brilliant. But again, Emery has brought players in. So Chris is going for Arsenal. I'm going for a 2-2. Bournemouth, Newcastle. Newcastle got 3 points on the board last week. Bournemouth have got a point on the board. No Solanke. Again, I think with this one, I'm going to go straight in with a prediction. I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going 1-1 with this one. Yourself?
A debut goal for a Van Nielsen.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on, isn't it? 40 million, being fantastic at Porto.
Yes,
do you think he can do it? Do you think he can be a success early on, or is it going to take him a bit of time to get adjusted?
It could. Don't forget, he's still quite young. As a striker, Stu, he's not. You know what I mean? And he's played. Most of his career was between Brazil, obviously Brazil, and obviously now being in Portugal. And I definitely say that the Premier League is the toughest league in the world. But I'm thinking he's got a good eye for goals, Stuart. And I think, mate, if it doesn't kick straight on, I think he will find the net sooner rather than later. And I think on a consistent basis as well. But Brighton again, huff and puff, don't they? And losing Solanke, no matter if they brought a Van Nielsen in, Solanke was one of their main man all season, and he was banging them in. And he wasn't, it wasn't just about scoring with Solanke, Stuart. He assisted as well, was involved in quite a lot of their plays going forward. Newcastle, I think, obviously going to have a better season from last season with players coming back from injury. They haven't really bought many players this summer either.
They've kept hold of Isak, haven't they? Which is massive for them.
And they've got Tonali coming back as well. I think Newcastle can win this, and I think Newcastle could win this. I'd say 2-2. I'm going to go. I keep going with 2, don't I? But I think this will be like 2-0. I think Newcastle.
Okay, yeah, we'll go with that. Also, it's good to see Bournemouth reinvesting and spending.
Yeah. To be fair, I was going to say this actually. Sorry to butt in, and you would know as well as I do is the power of the Premier League now. If Bournemouth can sign a top player, because I wouldn't say world class yet or elite for Van Nielsen, but it's like a top player would go to somewhere in Italy in one of the top 4 clubs, somewhere in Spain in the top 6 clubs. Do you think obviously money is obviously a factor here, but obviously do the English league now have hold of pretty much any player they want with any club as long as obviously the money's there?
No, I think so. It's the pulling power of the league, isn't it? They want to come here, they want to play. I think absolutely when you put it against all the other leagues. I just think Bournemouth have come out with 52 million out of that deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, Liverpool got 20% sell on. So, I mean, they put a big chunk of that into getting him, haven't they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've reinvested it a lot of the times. And the way clubs are doing it and panicking about FFP and what's happened to us, Forest, Leicester's impending deduction. I was only saying to John last week, and we put clips up during the week, they're being careful, aren't they? And I got shot down about Newcastle. Yeah, but they're putting money in for Gay. But I said, yeah, but they could by rights go in and spend a couple of 100 million. I said, that's just one player. I think people were misinterpreting what I was saying. Yeah, it's a lot of money for Gay, and they've been rebuffed, haven't they? Palace are like, no, you'll pay
times,
more.
Yeah.
He had a good tournament.
And I think, what's helped Palace out here? I think our stance with Branthwaite, because I think Gay and Branthwaite are on the same level path where, they're ready. They will be on the next step. And I think they could easily be the next 2 in defence for England going forward for the future. But I think them watching us the way we've been with United, with Branthwaite, and we have said 70, 75 million, 80 million, in those brackets, when you're looking at Newcastle's last bid, Stuart, was it 60 with 5 million add-ons?
Yeah.
They threw that out the window straight away.
Like we're not doing it. And
no,
it's good to see.
Yeah, and I think that's if you value the player, it doesn't matter who else thinks, like, if a club say, well, he's not worth that. But if he's worth that to our club and to us, tough shit. Pay it, look somewhere else. And I think, he's a hard player, as I just said, with Anderson going to Fulham possibly. 2 solid centre-backs are hard to find as well as good as them both have been. And I just think, like, you have to replace with the same style or someone as good, just as good as, say, Gahey, going to possibly to Newcastle. But I hope they hold out the same as we for Branthwaite and say, look, 70 million and he's yours.
Yeah, so that'll be another interesting game that on Sunday. That's one of the early ones at 2. Just quickly, the last 2.
Okay.
Wolves, Chelsea at 2 o'clock as well. Chelsea trying to balance Europe. Obviously, the first leg last night against Servette from Switzerland, they won 2-0. What I was hearing, I was listening to the radio this morning before coming into work. Not a great performance from Chelsea. A lot of the Chelsea fans weren't happy at all. Lacking an identity. But it's like, hold on a minute here. What are you going to do? Give Maresca 4 months and bin him off? They can't just keep doing this. That guy needs time, and he needs a couple of years at the very least.
What would that say? The size of the squad, Stuart. I agree. They probably haven't got an identity. Look at all the amount of flipping players they have. Different styles, different personalities, different nations, and are you getting upset if you're playing well the season before and the next season 2 more players have been brought in your position? It's got to unsettle certain players as well. And I felt sorry for the likes of Pochettino, Graham Potter, who have been in there before him. It's not giving these. I think Potter's had enough. Not Potter, sorry, Pochettino. I think had enough by the end of the season. because how much influence are these managers at Chelsea having with the players that are coming in? All the players that are coming in, their choice, their players they want, or is Todd Bowley and whoever's director of football at Chelsea saying, right, him, you're having him?
Mm.
It's hard, isn't it?
Gary O'Neill, what a job. And you lose Pedro Neto.
And Kilman, don't forget.
Yeah, I still think Gary O'Neill will still get them playing because look what he did at Bournemouth with nothing, like literally nothing. That guy, I think he is one of the most underrated managers in the league. He has had the rug pulled from under him. Lopetegui left prior to that because he wasn't happy with the way it was going. They were selling. What a job by him. I think they're tenacious. I'm gonna go 2-1 Wolves. I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves.
I think
it's a state of mind. It's not just having the players. It's what that manager can do. It's about belief, self-belief.
Yeah.
It's not just on ability. What a manager he has been. Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe with you with Lopetegui. I mean, he's been around the game obviously a lot longer than Gary O'Neill, so he knows like, oh, you're taking the piss now. I'm off. I'll see you later.
He wasn't having it, was he?
No, but Gary O'Neill, he's steadily. And I think you're looking at past players that have come in, who've retired and moved into management, and the last couple, let's be honest, haven't shown enough. I know Gerrard did it, Rangers, but everyone else really, that the Lampards, obviously minus Arteta, but he learned under Pep, didn't he? Gary O'Neill has stood out over everybody, and he's taking hard jobs to do it. He's not taking an easy job. And he's turning obviously the teams round. But yeah, I agree with Wolves. Wolves have always been one of those sort of teams where they've got flair. The Portuguese sort of impact they have. I don't know if that's still there, but they've always been a really good team at home, haven't they? And obviously with Chelsea's situation at the moment, and I don't think that's going to get any better. I see Wolves as well, 2-1. Right, comfortable 2-1 as well.
We're in agreement there. But poor Chelsea, Paul Maresca potentially here again. And in closing, the final game of the weekend, Liverpool versus Brentford.
Yeah,
Ivan Toney. He's gonna go with his boys in Mbeumo and Visser. I was singing their praises last week previewing, and they worked their magic again. Them two, fantastic. Again, but I just think I've got Liverpool. I think 3-1. Slot, they looked very good last week. Mm-hmm. He's not signed anybody. I think Slot's second half performance, you could argue, was probably the performance of the weekend. The way Liverpool played, and it really was a game of two halves. Brentford are plucky. Don't get me wrong. I love Thomas Frank. I love what they're doing. Fleck in goal, I like him as well. But I just feel Liverpool. The players have been in that nucleus for so long. They know each other inside and out, don't they?
Yeah, and I think it's Arne Slot's first game at Anfield. You know what I mean? And we know what the Anfield crowd's like, and that will galvanise, obviously, the team, won't it, completely. I think he's got the players moving better. Obviously, in the second half, you saw, I wouldn't say old Salah because he's aging now, but you've seen him a lot more happier on the ball, didn't you? And then he was, say, the tail end of last season with Klopp, whatever that problem was. I agree. Anyone that plays Liverpool really at Anfield, I think that goes for pretty much every club in the division, have problems going to Anfield, don't they? Really, and you see that with like how long their unbeaten run was at Anfield before COVID happened. I think Liverpool can put a lot of pressure on you, and you can wilt under the pressure, and especially with the fans, obviously at Anfield, down your necks as well as you have the opposition of the opposition team. I'm probably on agreement with you where it'd probably be 3-1. I do think Brentford will get a goal because again I like Visser and Mbeumo are good players, and obviously you've got an old boy on the bench now for Brentford who they've just signed obviously from Liverpool, haven't they? In Fabio
Carvalho.
There you go. You know what I mean? That could be a good stage for him to show Liverpool what, why did you sell me? Sometimes that can happen. Doesn't always, but you like a bit of a fairy tale story, don't you? Where, old players can come back and haunt you. It does in our case, Stuart, when you're an Everton fan, and all half of our players we still come back and haunt us. But yeah, I don't think like this game for Brentford is going to lose them confidence. I think this is a game where I think you play your best and you do what you can, and if you can get a draw, fantastic. Against Liverpool at Anfield. But like I say, it's the pressure of the football that Liverpool play and Anfield itself, I think, crumble a lot of teams. And obviously, again, we know as Everton fans,
very hard place. It's a very hard place to go and get a result. But like lesser teams have gone there over the years. Not putting Brentford in there, but lesser teams have gone there, and there's been some shock results. Again, they up the game against the big teams. They really, really do. But for the most part, Anfield is a fortress. Just unfortunately for Brentford, I just think Liverpool have got too much in the tank, and they want to set the tone as well. They don't want to be getting behind to Arsenal and City early on as we're getting back to. It's so crucial. It's so crucial winning these games, because you got the big games, haven't you, when you're taking on the top 6, the top 4. This has been the preview and our predictions. It's game week 2. The Premier League is back. It's come around very quick. Obviously, we've had the international tournament over the summer, so it has come around quickly. Chris, before we go, the socials, please, where the viewers and listeners can find us. We're across so many different social platforms. So, if you like other social platforms, Chris has got them for you right now.
Okay, on X or Twitter, whatever which way you want to pronounce it, we are Footy Now and Then. On Instagram, we are Football Now and Then. Same for YouTube, we're Football Now and Then. Facebook, Football Now and Then. And we are on all cross audio forms. You can find us everywhere. I don't really need to tell you what they are, because I'm sure everyone by now knows whatever you listen to and whatever company you use. But we're everywhere. So, if you want to go back to our old episodes or listen to Stuart and John for the last couple of weeks whilst I've been off, we're there. You can easily go there.
Brilliant. Fantastic. TikTok, we've had a lot of views. TikTok. We've had a lot of views. And Chris, you're going to love this. I don't think I told you. I'm going to say, obviously, I'm moving around all the time. I'm like a jack in the box. Some guy said, is that guy on Spice? I thought, he's not talking about John, because he wouldn't move around like that. Years ago, that would have pissed me off. I was giggling, mate. Is he on Spice? Again, probably.
Where are you getting the money for that from, then?
Well, I don't know, mate. And I've seen some Spice heads in doorways in Leeds over the years in different places. Not good, monging out in a doorway. But not for me. I digress. Years ago, that would have got to me. You know what I would have been messaging you, going mad. You'd be like, just calm down, don't worry about it, fuck him, and all the rest of it. But it did tickle me. I thought, they can't be talking about John here. It's got to be about me. So there we have it. But TikTok's been fantastic. We've had a lot of comments in there. So just building. We're just building. When you add everything up, we're not doing bad.
We're still young, you know what I mean? We're only 20, 25 episodes in, you know what I mean? Little strides, little steps, I think people enjoy our content. I obviously want more interaction with people to suggest some stuff for us. If they've got something they want us to talk about, it could obviously say we're past and present. Anything they want to do, past or present. Throw one out there, throw an idea out as a club you want to talk about in the history of, or from past to present, players, goalkeepers, managers. Leagues, as we done football kits, computer games. There's so much variety we can play and talk about with footballers. I'd love to have people message us and ask us what they'd like us to talk about.
Next week, I promise, this has rolled on now for weeks and weeks and weeks.
That's been my fault.
Goalkeepers. Chris had said about this. It's because of time. We went in depth with obviously predictions and stuff, so we are sorry. We will make time for the goalkeepers next week. I'll put some in now, just on screen, ready. Francesco Toldo, Chris, you picked several weeks ago.
Yeah,
fantastic. We've got Bodo Illner, who spent a long time, obviously in Spain. He was around for a long time. He was at Köln, wasn't he, in Germany?
Yeah.
Great keeper, cap for Germany. Pre-Oliver Kahn, Andreas Kopke. Of course, Andreas Kopke, Chris.
Yeah.
The old, I had that goalkeeper top, but the Rangers one. I had the exact same design. Another legend there, a very young Gigi Buffon, who's only retired in the last year or so.
Yeah. He went on, didn't he, really, Buffon?
Manuel Neuer, because obviously we want to say about the now, still going strong, Chris. What a career he's had.
Just retired from international duty as well.
And another one who broke in at 17 and had a fantastic career. Iker Casillas, I remember seeing him early on in the Champions League when it was on ITV, free to air. What a career. And don't want to do too much on it because,
of course.
I just feel bad because we've run out of time. And it's just to make the listeners and the viewers aware. We will do iconic keepers from the past and present.
But this is what I mean. People listening to us, either audio or video, this is what I'm trying to say is if you've got any ideas, stuff like, what we're doing here with the keepers, anything like that, me and Stuart love football. I'm assuming everybody who listens to us loves football. I'd like any sort of ideas that you have that, that we can push on the show for you as a topic.
Perfect. Well done, everybody. Thank you. I've lost my train of thought here, Chris. Again, I'd just like to say about the Sports Social Podcast Network. Obviously, for 500 plus now, isn't it? I remember you saying the other week, this banner's got 450. 500 podcasts, all sorts of sports, you name it. Europe's largest sports podcast network. Thank you for letting us be a part of that. The guys have been fantastic, as we always say. Great support. We need to put some clips into them, actually, Chris, at some point. And we'll make sure we do that. And we will see you very, very soon for episode 26, which will be next Friday, all being well. We look forward to it. Chris, great having you back.
It's great to be back, mate. Honestly, I've missed it. I've been hating watching it. Not being on the show itself. So it's nice to be back, and hopefully now this is a consistent basis.
A special guest on the way, hopefully in September. I'll leave it at that. We're working that one. It's going to be a very, very good guest. The guy that's been around a certain club for many, many years, a myriad of roles. But just so it doesn't drag on this now, that is something that's coming up. We look forward. We need guests. We need people within the industry of football coming on the show. It gives us a bit more depth, doesn't it? Adds layers to the show. We'll see you next week for episode 26. And we look forward to the weekend's football. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.